All right. So you can see that I am not in video form today, guys. Just give me 1 second. I want to join. I want to see what's going on the channel over here. Okay, there we go. I'm going to pull that over. All right. So first thing I want to do is apologize that I haven't been able to go live as much as I wanted to for this promotion. It was just one of those situations where I've got really bad sciatica. So there you go. I can't stand up or sit in a regular chair. So I'm in bed today. Excuse me. And I said, you know what? I'm not just going to ignore people with this contest that we're doing, but I am attorney Michael Ehline, and I am an attorney licensed, well, barred in California and Texas. And I believe in constitutional currency. And so I've been doing some shows lately talking about constitutional currency, natural law, the common law origins of our republic, and trying to share educational material with my audience. And one of my favorite moderators and buddies is Lynn Davidson. And so Lynn, unfortunately, lives back east, and he doesn't even have any hot water. And I don't believe that the government is the answer. I think the government is the problem. And so I pledged to give a 1/10 ounce piece of gold to the highest donor, to Lynn. So as opposed to just giving Lynn a piece of gold, which isn't really going to do much insofar as educating people, I said, well, I'm going to try to use my show as a way to teach you about constitutional currency and how to look out for a fellow brother, because I believe in prepping and stuff like that. So for example, let's say when fiat currency goes to zero, and we all know that all fiat currency goes to zero at some point, that the economy will collapse. The fake economy that we have, the Epstein Island financiers who create fractional currency. In other words, the Federal Reserve gives $1 to a bank, and that gives the bank permission to loan out $5, even though they only have one, right? So it's all nonsense. It was started by the Rothschilds family and the Warburgs under cover of night in 1913 in the Jekyll Island debacle, where our president sold us out to the bankers. And it's basically the same people who funded Epstein. And a lot of people don't know that, but Epstein is also, according to his emails, works for the Rothschilds. And so these people are famous for taking over countries, to a large degree controlling the pharmaceutical industry. And of course, we heard Bill Gates, who was also a regular attendee of, this is going to blow your mind, a regular attendee of Epstein Island, who was emailing Epstein saying, hey, can you help me figure out a way to get some antibiotics to slip into my wife's food or drink? Because that way I can make sure that she, since I have venereal VD from these 2 Russian hookers that you got me or whatever, I may have given it to her, so I want to slip this in her drink, right? And of course, we know that Melinda Gates ultimately left Bill Gates, but Bill Gates is the guy famous for saying, we can really control the population if we do a really good job on vaccines, right? The same people who want you to inject yourself with all this stuff are also into population control. So that always gave me pause for thought, right? Do I really want to do that? Do I really want to take this safe and effective stuff if the end game is population control? Do I want to be the carbon that they are controlling and reducing? I don't know. So excuse me, guys. Again, I'm attorney Michael Ehline. I'm in bed today, so I'm wiped out. I have really bad sciatica. I have a bulging disc, so I look pretty haggardly. But rather than not go live, because the show this promotion is over on Tuesday at midnight. And so John, Felix, and I are going to make a good faith effort to do another show on that night to do some more fundraising for Lynn. And so if you look in the description of this video, I have some cool things for you that I've included, including but not limited to some channels that I like Salivate Metals and Muñeco 64, but also the different markets like Kitco. So I'm teaching, I want to teach you about trading hours. So today I'm going to teach you a little bit about that. So as opposed to just giving people some money or some gold or whatever, I like teaching people. I like giving people the pull instead of the fish, if that makes sense. So that's what I do. I'll just show you an image of the markets here. You can see all the markets are closed right now. Let me get the other link. And by the way, if you have questions for me, I'm here. It'll be easier for me to run the show when I'm not so concerned about my video and all that crazy stuff as well. So these links that I'm showing you right now are actually saved in the description of this video, as well as the GoFundMe link for Lynn Davidson. And there's also a link to the contest rules. It's not really a contest. It's more like a promotion. But today you're going to learn a little bit about what's going on in the gold and silver markets and how to protect yourself if you're investing in the stock market. Hey, good seeing you. What's the matter, you? So you can see that you don't see me video today, but I'm ugly looking today. What's the matter, you? I've got really bad sciatica, so I'm actually laying in bed. So you don't want to see me. But I thought I would give this as a really cool opportunity to teach you guys a little bit, okay? So that's right. He don't want no pull. He wants fish. Just kidding, Lynn. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is still kind of giving him fish. I'm still trying to figure out a way for us to, because I know Lynn, if he had a computer, right? If somebody could donate this guy a computer and he had a little bit of startup capital to get a YouTube show going, we could all subscribe. I mean, I've got over 60,000 subs. We could probably get Chili DeCastro to send him some subs. We could get Reluctant Prophet to send him subs, as well as Felix. And I think we could get him enough subs to get him to where we could set up his own channel, because Lynn's got a lot of really great insight and he's really patriotic and he loves his country. I think we could help him build his channel and make it really successful. Yeah, what's the matter? Me too, brother. And I know that Kinetic Customs has had issues, but just to give you an example of what I like to do. So I'm a really patriotic guy. I became a lawyer with no law degree or undergrad on the law study program, the same way that John Jay or Abraham Lincoln became a lawyer before we had the communists take over the control of the education system, which turned our education system into propaganda and brainwashing and creating compliant robots for the state. So that's one of the reasons why you don't hear me supporting like mandatory, safe, and effective, or going along with the program with fiat currency and the private, secretly run Federal Reserve. That's why people who went to public schools and colleges call me a conspiracy theorist, because I'm a free thinker, a critical thinker, which critical thinking is something that you don't learn in the public school system. You learn absolute compliance, because that's what they want. Our education system came from Prussia. It was brought here by the Rockefeller family. The king of Prussia was defeated by Napoleon and his army deserted. And so he created a public school system that created absolute obedience to the state. And that was imported to the United States by the Rockefellers. And he initially spread it by granting money to private schools around the country in exchange for building them schoolhouses and whatnot. And eventually he was able to get legislation passed to where we created the public school system. And that's why you have all these useful idiots waving Mexican flags, running around, trying to overthrow the US government, while their woke school teachers send them out as targets, because they're minors and they know that if somebody defends themselves against these children, they can say, oh, it was ICE or it was the police or whatever. and try to create a race war. And that's what they're trying to do, or a woke war, right? So give me a bunch of ones if you agree with that, that's what the Marxist run communist public school teachers are trying to do right now. And if you disagree, give me a bunch of twos. I don't care. You know, I don't, I'm not one of these guys who wants you to agree with me on everything. I want, hit that like and subscribe button. And it looks like my moderators need to get to work. Oven Burn, good seeing you, man. Good seeing you, bro. So look, I know you don't see me live on video today. That's because I'm in bed with sciatica, but at least I'm trying to go live. I am going live to try and teach people who want to learn about how to avoid some pitfalls when they're investing in gold and silver. And so I'm giving away a 1/10 ounce piece of gold. And let me see if I can find a picture of that piece of gold. Hold on one second. Freaking doggone it. Give me a minute here. Try and find that. Here we go. Let me show you. Okay. This is actually a different one. This is an American gold eagle, but it's 1/10 ounce, right? The one that I'm giving away is actually a, hold on, let me find the one that I'm giving away so I don't mislead anybody. But that's what 1/10 ounce gold looks like, okay? So let me find the one that I'm giving away. Give me 1 second. I may just have to find it for you. So just bear with me, guys, all right? I'm definitely out of it today. I'm on some painkillers. So give me a bunch of ones for me going live for you, considering the fact that I'm in immense pain and would rather be sleeping right now. At least that's what my body would rather me be doing. So give me some encouragement that I can get through this. At least I'm not dying from standing, right? That was the problem before, is I was, the last video I did, I was wincing and in a lot of pain. I couldn't handle it. So I wasn't able to get through it the way I wanted to. All right, let me see if I can share this tab. Okay, so I'm giving away I'm giving away a 1/10 ounce piece of gold that I got off SD Bullion. And let me just tell you how crazy this is. So when I bought this thing, they're out of stock right now, but you can see how it looks. Unfortunately, it's got a picture of King Charles on it, but it's still a 1/10 ounce piece of gold. So it's worth something, all right? And I'm all about gold and silver and constitutional currency. And by the way, guys, do you guys hear me okay? Because I set up my Shuri microphone, and it seems like it's coming in pretty loud. No, James, I am resting. I'm just laying here, man. I'm good, brother, but I appreciate that you understanding what it's like to have a back injury. But yeah, so is that piece of gold there, that is the gold that I'm giving away. I don't know what year it is. I've got a bunch of them. I'm not sure which one it is that my wife told me I could put up for this contest or for this fundraiser for Lynn. Okay, thanks, guys. I appreciate that. I just don't want to have a lot of feedback where it sounds crappy. I hate that, like, big time. But yeah, so that's the deal. That's the gold there, and you can see that up at the top here. Let me just show you. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but you see it says gold 4,978, and then silver 78.52, and then platinum 114.44. So just so you know, that is the price that SD Bullion has, because they include a little bit like their spot price in there and stuff. So the real prices that you're going to find that show the actual prices. And by the way, if you want to go along with me and look at this, because I want to teach you guys, so you understand, I'm going to teach you guys what I know about the gold and silver market, because I've been able to make hundreds of thousands of dollars in the last few weeks by playing these markets with my SEP IRA while I'm laying here in bed. And And I know a lot of it has to do with inflation and whatnot, but Lynn, look, I'm not giving you legal or financial advice. I just want to teach you what I know. So you're armed with this information. So as you can see, right now, the price of gold, when the market's closed on Friday, the bid price is $49.66 and the ask price is $49.68. Then you can see silver, you can see platinum. Platinum's taken a hit. I bought a bunch of platinum when it was like 2,700. You can see now it's is a Friday trading at 1,826. And again, the links to all this stuff that I'm sharing on my screen, they're in the description. So I want you guys to see that and understand. Hey, Gloria, is Gloria here? Hold on, let me go back up. And if Gloria's here, I'm glad because I miss her. I haven't seen her in a while. I got Grateful Dabs. I got Brandon. Hey, Brandon. Oh, Gloria. Yeah, right on, Gloria. Good seeing you, ma'am. So, Gloria, the reason I'm not on the video today is because I'm in bed with a really bad back injury. But I promised Lynn that I would help him raise some money or some fiat currency, because the guy doesn't even have any hot water. And so people like Life Under the Microscope have reached out. I think Life Under even has a place for him to live if he's able to move, and possibly even a truck for him to use. So, that's why I like doing stuff like this. Like anybody could just say, here's $500 or $600. But if I can go live and say, hey, look, guys, you're all patriots. You're all loyal to our cause, which is creating parallel systems outside the government, similar to the Amish. We've got a friend who's part of our group who's in need, and he's suffering right now. And I know if I was not able to work and I was struggling, I sure would like to have a group of people who cared about me, who understood that I was loyal to their cause, who might be able to help me. And so I'm just doing, like thinking like, Ben, if I was really down and out and didn't have a wife and kids to give me joy and support, what would I do? And so this was what I thought of. I've got a lot of gold and silver that I've been able to save over the years. And I've got a 1/10 ounce piece that my wife and I agreed, we prayed about it and we said, and if you're not religious, that's fine. Don't hold it against me. But we decided that we could help this guy, and we'd give up this 1/10 ouncer for the highest donor to Lynn. And so on his GoFundMe account, give me a bunch of ones for yourselves. I think we were able to, from our first video, raise $250 for him. And I know he's got a goal of 30,000. That's pretty lofty. I don't know if we could even get close to that, but it's not just about money. I mean, I'm willing to consider the value of what he accepts insofar as services as well. Like if you're able to provide him a computer and that computer shows a donation value of X amount, or help him pay for an internet connection, maybe even one of those Tesla. What's that? Somebody put it in the chat what that Tesla thing is, where it's like a remote internet. Because my goal, honestly, for Lynn is to get him set up with his own channel where we can get him monetized, where he can start generating some income doing his own YouTube shows. Because I'm not a big fan of just giving things to people. I'm not into making people dependent on me. I want to give someone the pole instead of the fish. And I think most of you, because you're libertarian minded like me, you agree with that. So Chile had his goal of 9K met, and it was just moved to 11. So wait, so Chile raised money for fiat currency for Lynn? 9,000? Is that true, Life Under? Because if that's true, that makes me really proud, because Chile's my buddy, and I don't. Somebody tell me if that's true. Did that 9,000 get raised for Lynn? Because that's insane. Oh, if it is, that's amazing. That I would like to see that. Yeah, Grateful Dab. So $150 a month for Starlink. I mean, if somebody could, get him started on Starlink, or maybe pay it in advance for 6 months, I would take that into consideration for the gold giveaway, right? Like, it would help offset. Oh, for Chile's case. Okay. Well, look, this is another thing about what I like to do, because I am friends with Chile, and I think I'm the only person who actually got to visit him in jail in his actual, in the holding area. Nobody else got to see him except for his other lawyer, until they finally kicked me out, because all the people who hate Chile called the jailers and basically told them a bunch of lies about me, and I was then prohibited from visiting him. But that just shows you, like, when you're effective and you're out there doing good for people, those demonic Luciferian people who support the government over the people, they'll do anything to destroy you. And that's what they tried to do to Chile. And that's why I definitely needed to be there to support him. And I never looked for any money or fiat currency. It was because I just didn't want him to suffer. And so anyways, the good news is, with respect to Chile, is if we can get this thing going viral, I'm sure Chile will step in and help out too. This contest ends on Tuesday. Oh, okay. So Chile has a federal trial tomorrow against a cop. Okay. Well, that's great. Everybody support Chile. He's over at Delete Laws. Super good guy. He's the guy who inspired me to really start my channel. But I don't just do cop watch stuff. I try to cover other things because I'm more into natural law, and I want to teach you the underpinnings of why we're suffering these problems we're suffering today. So it looks like we're starting to fill up. We've got, you guys remember, we used to get like 20,000, 30,000 viewers in the chats. I mean, now I'm at 12. That's embarrassing. And that's mainly because when my back got injured, I just stopped doing lives. So I lost a lot of people, and I don't think that YouTube gives me a lot of, they don't ring my bell to people, because I got suspended for talking about safe and effective and things like that, and they didn't like that. So now I think they've got me under their thumb, because I think they're afraid that I'm going to hurt their buddies, like the Epstein big pharma guys and stuff. So that's why it's important that you guys always hit that bell button and you tell your friends about me and you share my link, especially in this case for Lynn. So hopefully we'll get this thing going viral for Lynn, and we'll be able to, that's right, we need to get back, not just, in my opinion, not the Constitution, but the Bill of Rights and natural law. I think natural law is where we got to go, Maddie. The Constitution has quite a bit of holes on it. In it, I'm more about the Articles of Confederation. But we'll talk about that on another show. Today, we're here to talk about Lynn and talk about how you guys can maybe make some better choices if you want to buy gold and silver. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the COMEX. Thanks, Fishy Fun. Well, you're my kind of person too if you're watching the show. So the COMEX is this organization. Well, really quick, before we get into that. So right now you see, this is the price of gold and silver in platinum and palladium and rhodium as of Friday, at close of market. Now, tonight, which is actually going to be Monday night in China, or as Trump would say, China, really the Eastern markets. The first market that's going to open is the Australian Securities Exchange. That's in 2 hours, right? And so that's why I included a link in the, hold on one second, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you exactly what it is. That's why I included a link in my description to Salivate Metals, okay? So I want you guys to all join Salivate Metals tonight. Please do me a big favor and watch his show. He's really cool. His name's Sal, super patriotic guy. He's all about constitutional currency. And so what he does is every Sunday night he goes live and he covers the opening of the securities exchanges overseas. And so this is the Australian one. And then let me go back to the other. But the big one is Hong Kong. It's called, hold on a minute, HKEX or whatever. Hong Kong and then mainland China. And I'm going to show you mainland China as well in a minute, which is the Shanghai Stock Exchange. That's this one. It opens up in like almost 5 hours. So before we talk about COMEX, I want to explain to you that these stock exchanges overseas, they're not based on paper markets. Unfortunately, COMEX was because, the Rothschild family and all these scumbags were able to wrestle control of our silver markets. That's how they took down the Hunt brothers. Right on, James. Yeah. And Yankee stacking too. Super, super cool. I did a video about the SD Bullion lawsuit where Yankee stacking is also being sued because he supports SD Bullion. And I talked about that federal lawsuit and why I think a lot of the causes of action are going to get thrown out. But that's California for you, right? You have some commie attorney suing for whatever he can. The single party state of communist Fornia, right? Yeah, that's how it is. Yeah. So let me see if I can. All right. As Saul would say, all right. Yeah, I really like Sal. He's cool. So let's go back over to, so now you get an idea. You got an idea of the markets. All right. So that overseas market for them, it's really going to be Monday. You see that Shanghai Stock Exchange closed? Hopefully you guys see that. All right. I don't want to bore you guys, but I want to teach you guys how to stack and how I buy in cheap and how I escape my positions high with stop losses or just manually escaping my position. International Stacker. I don't know about that one. I'll check it out. Great Gazoo. Yeah, Gloria, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, as Chili De Castro would say. Yeah, Commufornia. Right on, Judy. Communist Fornia, the single party state of Marxism. You just saw that the owner of In-N-Out the other day said she's fleeing Communist Fornia. They're these idiots in the California legislature, these woke morons, passed a billionaires tax. So they think that billionaires don't pay their fair share. And the income tax is what did that, right? Where these Marxists, the Rothschilds, for example, got this income tax to apply to our wages and what we earn. And so, the lefties try to say, oh, you're a billionaire who doesn't pay their fair share. Well, it's no one's business how much money you make or how much fiat currency you earn. That's your business. You earned it. And I don't care if you made billions or if you only made $20, that's yours. You earned it. You could pay taxes based on a tariff, just like Andrew Jackson did. And just like for the first 150 years of our country, we were most prosperous just with tariffs and a few other minor taxes. And that was the way that we became successful. And now we spend, the first 100 days of everything we earn goes to the government. For Joe Biden's 80,000 armed IRS agents who can just randomly audit you, and of course they audit people like us who don't make that much. And we spend more paying lawyers to do an audit or accountants. And so they know we're going to settle. They don't audit the rich people because they know that they can afford the lawyers and they'll get their asses kicked, or at least they'll settle for much less. But people like you and I, we're the ones they go after, guys. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree with that. So, I'm all about abolishing the income tax and going back, abolishing the private, secretly run Federal Reserve and returning us back to a constitutional currency, which is gold and silver. So I wanted to talk to you about how COMEX manipulates the markets, but instead of complaining about them, how we can actually use that same system in our favor. And I learned this by losing a couple $100,000 when I was up on silver, when COMEX crashed the market. A lot of people call them Crimex, right? Crimex. Pretty funny, right, guys? Crimex. So let's just get into it, all right? So I'm attorney Michael Ehline. I'm your go-to attorney for catastrophic injury cases. That's what I do to support my family. But pro bono, I do Second Amendment. Alan Beck and I Alan's got the Wolford case. He just argued before the United States Supreme Court, and Trump's Department of Justice joined us in amicus and argued our brief alongside of us, which is, I think, the fourth time in history that they've joined a private party. And that's our case. But it's really Alan, but Alan works with my firm. He's on my website. I'm pretty proud of that. And that's the Wolford case, and that has to do with concealed carry rights in the state of Hawaii. That's WOLFORD. But the way I support my family in Texas and California is I do cruise ship injury claims. I helped draft the Cruise Ship Safety Act because people were getting thrown over the sides of these boats, and still are, abused by cruise ship employees as well as passengers. And they were skirting the law, and they take advantage of all of our services, but don't pay taxes federally. They rely on all these treaties that they have and federal maritime law and all that. So yeah, I helped out with that. But today's episode, I'm going to talk about buying the dip at margin calls and the 1/10 ounce gold giveaway for our disabled patriot friend, Lynn Davidson. So yeah, we're going to dive into the timing gold and silver purchases during margin call dips. And I'm going to explain to you what a margin call is in plain English. And we're going to talk about the Hunt Brothers epic takedown and why U.S. paper markets differ from physical overseas ones. And you can see there, you can see that we've got the securities markets overseas. And if you go to my description and you click on this, I have this link, this exact link. Hey, Jody, good seeing you. I have this exact link for you to, and thanks, Life Under. I appreciate that. Thanks. I've got the link to this very page where it shows you all the different markets and when they open. And so I noticed something really interesting before I get back onto my script, right? I noticed something real interesting about these markets, and that's that all these markets here, when they open, silver prices are like selling for $100 an ounce or whatever. Now, when these markets open, it's selling for like 70 an ounce because they're all tied to COMEX, right? And all these the Soviet Socialist Republic of London, or some people call it Londonistan, the Great Replacement, where the Rothschilds are flooding all these countries with illegal alien jihadists who are destroying the culture of all the people who are, except for Russia, of course, they're not letting these people in their country. But it all emanates from this place over here. I'm not even going to say the word, but people who live in this country and the person who started this country in the World Economic Forum started pushing this, and it's the Great Replacement. They're resettling and destroying the cultures of countries like Germany and England. And all these people go up there and immediately get on welfare and have millions of babies, and they're on welfare for life. And that's the new goal. And so a lot of people are like, well, why would they do that? Well, I think it's because of the humanoid robots. I think the reason that Bill Gates and all these guys want to reduce the population is because they know they're going to replace us with AI humanoid robots. And according to the World Economic Forum's people, we're just useless eaters. We're just worthless carbon material. So they want to replace us and reduce us. And maybe with someone from a religion that believes in submission to the state. Think about that. Yeah. So anyways, I noticed that when you look at these markets over on the right, silver goes up and then the next day it goes down. And then I noticed like last week, everything crashed. I mean, I think silver went down to 67 and everybody blamed it. Well, the press, the lefty press blamed it on Trump's new pick for the Federal Reserve. But I don't think that Trump would have picked someone who's going to raise interest rates. And of course, when you raise interest rates, prices of gold and silver go down because it usually strengthens the dollar, and prices of gold and silver go up when we have a weaker dollar. And so that was Trump's goal all along, was to have a weaker dollar, because we want to encourage all these companies that have moved over to these countries on the far right over here, like China, to move their factories back to the United States. That's his economic plan. So I don't think this new guy is going to raise interest rates. I think the real reason that all the prices crashed was because of COMEX. Because COMEX, they do what's called paper trading, all right? Paper trading. Does anybody know what paper trading is? This is how they destroyed the Hunt brothers. But remember, the Hunt brothers were more speculative. You know, they were speculating. So anyways, so timing your gold and silver purchases during COMEX margin call dips is really, I think, the way to go. Because when gold and silver crash, it's because COMEX raises these margin call dips. And COMEX generally raises their margin call dips when the price of gold and silver goes up. And so I'm going to try to explain what a margin call is in plain English. And this is how they took down the Hunt brothers. But the U.S. paper markets differ from physical overseas ones. Central banks aggressively are buying metals like crazy. So I'm going to talk about that and how BRICS, the Chinese currency, where they've got their allies like India, Pakistan, Russia, and Iran, they're making this time a lot different than when silver crashed under the Hunt brothers. Hopefully, give me a bunch of ones if you guys know about the Hunt brothers and what happened. And I'm also going to talk about how to spot potential price drops from margin calls so you can buy physical metals or minor stocks. And guys, minor stocks, I think, are where it's at. But the problem is a lot of people are buying these minor stocks at the top, and then the markets crash and they get weak hands and they sell it at a loss. And that's what these COMEX people and the Rothschilds are counting on. But if you use a little bit of common sense and think like a lawyer, like me, I think you can reverse engineer what they're doing and benefit instead of blaming COMEX and getting mad at them, beat them at their own game, right? So basically, the COMEX has the largest gold and silver supplies out there, right? Like the LBMA, the London ones. So they have like hundreds of tons of this gold and silver. And so they sell it in tonnage. And these big investors, well, they buy that. They buy what's called a paper trade, where they might be able to spend $15,000 to get in on $1 million worth of gold. And so that's called buying at the margins. And so what they'll do is they'll put that up. But then when China spikes the price of gold and silver, well, that terrifies them because they don't have enough gold and silver to meet those calls, the COMEX. And so what they do is they raise their margin calls to shake people out. And so what you saw last week when minor stocks and a lot of other stocks crashed is these hedge fund guys were selling their other stocks at a loss so they could meet these margin calls from COMEX. So COMEX really rigs the market in that way. So all these big hedge funds were selling like their Tesla, their Nvidia, and all that stuff so they could meet these margin calls from COMEX. I think that was on Thursday, right? So that's what really happened. And so a lot of people got weak hands and they sold at a loss. And they're counting on that because the hedge funders that just sold everything at a loss, well, what they do is they can turn and they can buy everything that you sold for pennies on the dollar and try to sort of save some of their drop that they just sold. Because when there's a selling spree, prices go down. Hopefully you guys understand that. But that's the stock market. But because COMEX, all these prices, guys, all these prices on Kitco, I'm going to go back over here. These are all set by the paper trade, not the real price of physical gold and silver. So hopefully you can see that. So these are the prices as of Friday. Gold was up to $49.66. Silver, $77.69. I bought a bunch of junk silver, constitutional silver, when that happened. Yeah, that's true. Shanghai market caught entities flooding the market with paper and charged them with Article 16. You know, it's amazing. As much as I dislike the communist Chinese, I'm all about them going after these people for trying to screw up the markets in their own country. Gold and silver should be tied to the physical price, not paper trade, because the vast majority of people deserve to have some certainty about the price of gold and silver. So COMEX, what they'll do is they'll raise their margin calls. The paper traders, in order to meet that margin call, what they'll do is they'll sell their other stuff, these hedge fund guys, and in order to meet their margin call, because a lot of people are trying to take physical delivery. And COMEX doesn't want that because they're not going to be able to meet the physical delivery. Now, historically, these people who got involved in the paper trade, well, they just wanted to make a bunch of money or a bunch of fiat currency by speculating on the gold and silver market. And so COMEX could keep the prices down to like 30 bucks an ounce. But the problem is China and these other countries are screwing them up because of BRICS. So they don't have enough physical gold and silver to meet the deliveries. You're going to find out in March what's going to happen. I think that the government's going to be forced to set a ceiling or a floor, not a ceiling, a floor on the physical silver. I think we're going to be, at some point, we're going to get off this artificial COMEX nonsense. And so as part of this promotion that I'm doing, I'm giving away a 1/10 ounce American gold eagle. It's a solid starter piece for someone who wants to learn about stacking. And again, you can check the live prices on SD Bullion or JM Bullion. I think I paid like 700 bucks for this thing at the top of the market before COMEX crashed it. So right now, I think to buy that same piece, you'd be looking at around 600, but that's COMEX for you, right? And so I thought about that. Anyways, the giveaway honors Lynn Davidson. He's a patriot and he's a disabled YouTube guy. And he shares a lot of my content and he likes to wake people up and he stands for American values. And I shared his channel in the description. And then all the links to donate to him are there. I guess we've raised like 300 or 400 bucks for him already. And whoever, and look, it's not just based on the fiat currency that you donate to him. I mean, if somebody wants to donate a car, a truck, has a place for him to live, I'll take that into the value of what the market value is for that to determine who gets this 1/10 ounce piece of gold. Not a problem. And Lynn's going to share with me at midnight or after midnight on Tuesday what the donations were and the value of these things that people donated to him. And I'm going to figure out who it is that gets this 1/10 ounce piece of gold. All right. So that's how we're going to do it. And again, I could have just given him 500 or 600 bucks, but why do that when I can build a system outside the government, outside AI and all these weirdos at the World Economic Forum, a parallel system, the way Martin Luther King Jr. did when shop owners wouldn't sell to blacks or let them eat at their restaurants on certain days or wouldn't let them buy, always put them at the back of the bus. Well, Martin Luther King Jr. boycotted all these people and created his own parallel system. And ultimately he crushed that government system, that government supported system. And I want to do the same thing for people like us who want to homeschool our kids, get them out of these communist run public schools where school teachers are sending your kids out there waving Mexican flags, saying we're on stolen land and all this bullshit, and return us back to a patriotic country where we support our country, the American values, truth, justice in the American way. You know what I mean? Yeah. Give me a bunch of ones for truth, justice in the American way. By the way, in the Superman movies, these Rothschild people that run Hollywood, they took out the American way from that. And I grew up watching Superman and it was always about truth, justice in the American way. And that meant something. And that's why we stood as a beacon of hope for the rest of the free world. And yeah, America's made a lot of mistakes, but everybody has. But the concept of natural law and individual rights in a republic, there is no better system than that. And all the left does is focus on all the mistakes that people made. But people like you and I, we could retake that. We can make this country a great country again. Now, Matt says, I don't use electronic credit or payments. I just take silver or convert to fiat. Well, that's cool, Matt. And so, Matt, listen, if you want to help uh, Lynn, and you don't use credit or all that, well, obviously I'm all about creating an alternative way to help him, even if it means that you give him a couple ounces of some or some face value junk silver. I mean, whatever you can do to help, because he could always go to a local coin shop and he could try to liquidate that for some fiat. But the idea is, my goal here for Lynn is that we could help him create a YouTube channel that gets monetized, because the guy can't really walk. He's in a wheelchair, but he's got a lot of great things to say. And if he had access to the internet, could take a warm shower once in a while, I think he could really create a great YouTube channel, especially if Grateful Dabs helped him out. And I'd always have him on as a guest. And I think he could really build something really good for himself. You know, instead of giving him the fish, give him a pole. But right now, in the meantime, the guy doesn't have a truck. He doesn't have transportation. He doesn't even have food. So if you want to mail him some food, send him some MREs, whatever, I'll take into account the value of that, the reasonable value of that stuff, when we decide who we're going to give away this 1/10 ounce piece of gold to. Give me a bunch of ones if you guys think that's fair. I think it's fair. I mean, I think that's what we should always be doing to help people. We should always be trying to find a way to give people a fishing pole instead of the fish. You know, if the guy's handicapped, well, he can still type, right? If he had a decent computer and he had an internet, well, he could make it happen. And for people with no bank accounts, like Great Gazoo, I mean, I know there's ways you can set up trusts where you could just have a bank account just for the purposes of receiving the YouTube payments, then immediately convert that into fiat and immediately head down to the local coin shop and grab some junk silver, right? Right. And then you could just liquidate that junk silver when it goes up to go down to the grocery store and grab yourself a bite to eat. So there's always a way, at least for now, until the World Economic Forum gets their way, that we can survive outside the government system like the Amish. I agree with you, Maddie. I wish we could, but we can work within the system and conquer it the same way that Martin Luther King did for his people. So at my people, it's not based on race, though. It's based on your belief that all rights come from your creator with a capital C. You'll see that in the Declaration of Independence. In cursive writing, which they don't teach kids anymore, that all of our rights come from our creator. And that C, that capitalized C, stands for deity. That's why it's capitalized. So in the old writing style, when you would capitalize it, when you were referring to God or a creator, you would see that God, like the Christian God, is always uppercase G. And lowercase g meant like the Roman gods or the cultic gods, like the ones that they worship over in Israel, right? Like the Kabbalah and the Babylonian Talmud, right? Where people like you and I are called cattle, right? We're considered goy and cattle. And that's what they teach over there. Like Epstein and all the people that he was emailing, referring to us as goyim, or just trash. They're servants that they can have their way with. The same people that create these vaccines that are going to make us healthy. Like Bill Gates said, if we do a really good job with vaccines, we can reduce the population. I believe he said that in a speech. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, you could get your car or truck fixed and pay with gold. Look, if we created parallel systems, Great Gazoo, we could do that. And then, yeah, that's one of the things I'd like to see happen for sure. Yeah. So let's just talk a little bit about margin calls, okay? But just remember, I'm doing this show for Lynn, okay? But I'm also trying to help you guys learn. So I'm looking at some of my notes. So I'm not answering everybody right away like I normally do, because I can't see you right this minute. So don't get upset if I don't respond right away. I'll scroll up and answer any questions, you know, that look like I can answer. So first, the basics of what a margin call is, and how does COMEX create these great buying opportunities? Because a lot of people hate them because it crashes silver. Like the day before, you might have bought silver at 80, then the next day it crashes to 60, and all those mining stocks you bought, it looks like you lost money because now you're in the red. Well, in futures trading, it's called leverage trading. So it means they only post a small margin, 5 to 10% of the contract. If prices drop, your equity falls, triggering what's called a margin call. But if prices go up, COMEX can also raise the margins because they get scared when prices go up. And why is that, guys? Because they don't have enough physical gold and silver right now to meet the call, right? So they'll raise the margin call. And right now it looks like they're doing it mostly when the Eastern and the BRICS markets go up, and they're basing their prices on the actual physical price. And you always notice back east in the Eastern markets, the physical price is always more than COMEX's paper market. We should have the same here. We should have a physical market. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. We should have a physical market, not a paper market. It's ridiculous that only the rich billionaires who have enough money to pay 5 to 10% of a multi-million-dollar contract get to decide what the price of silver is. That's unfair. That's like the King of England and his noblemen. That's not a constitutional republic. That's not capitalism. That's not laissez-faire capitalism that George Washington wanted. That is crony capitalism. And so when I hear all these left-wing communist public school teachers and college professors complaining about capitalism and how it doesn't work and we need a communist country, well, that's because they support the same government that supports crony capitalism, you know, where a politician goes into office worth a few thousand, and 2 months later, they're worth $20 million because they get these insider stock tips and stuff. Yeah, easily manipulated. What's the matter, you? Too easily manipulated. Amen, brother. So in futures trading, leverage means, again, posting only a small margin of the contract value. If prices drop, your equity falls, and that triggers a margin call. So you have to add funds or sell right there. And COMEX can force them to sell. So if the prices are down, well, they're forced to sell in that position. So COMEX will raise those requirements, but they'll also do it during volatility where it's going up, right? Where it's volatile. So recent examples show hikes to 9% for gold and 18% for silver. I mean, that's wild to me. So let me just, let me show you. So this is the COMEX CME group, right? So I'm gonna, what I'm gonna do, guys. So I want to share these links with you in real time. So I'm gonna go over to right here and drop this for you. So here's the link that I'm looking at. You guys see that? You guys see that? So that's COMEX, the CME group. All right. Just want you to see that. All right. So it's going to take me a little longer than my normal show because I'm going to be taking special efforts to share these links with you over on YouTube. Okay. So what they do is the CME group will hike gold and silver margins as volatility grips the market. All right. So let me show you. Here's another link for you. Here's another one. And I'll go back and try to answer some questions too. Okay, guys, just give me a minute. But let's just go along with this. So the CME group hikes gold and silver. This was on February. Again, silver margins as volatility grips the market. Look at all that gold. My gosh. And if you had all that, you'd be set for the rest of your life, right? So on February 6th, they raised margin requirements for gold and silver futures contracts as the world's largest commodities exchange sought to mitigate risks associated with the heightened volatility. That's what they say. And so margins are deposits that investors in futures markets pay to an exchange or clearinghouse to cover the risk or default. Exchanges typically raise margins to mitigate risks when price volatility in the market increases. Well, that price volatility is really, they're scared that they've got to deliver on gold and silver that they don't have. They don't have, because in the old days, nobody wanted to buy the gold and silver or take it. But now the central banks are buying it. Yeah, the central banks are buying it up in China. And our Federal Reserve, our secret Rothschild Warburg Federal Reserve, well, they're getting a little scared. Yeah, they're getting a little worried. So they're starting to buy gold and silver too. Yeah. So that's what's happening. And so now you got all these central banks buying it, and they're not just selling the paper, right? They want to buy that stuff and have it delivered. And so now one of my friends the other day said, well, wait a minute, Mike, wait a minute. They have to deliver it. They've got to deliver that gold. They don't have any choice. No, they don't. They can declare what's called an emergency. This COMEX has their own little built-in little system there where they could, oh no, it's an emergency. We don't have to deliver. Okay. So yeah, that's just so you know, that's how they get around it. Yeah. So let's go over here to what's going on. All right, so the BRICS is the new unit currency. The BRICS new unit currency is a good step forward. Okay, that's what they're saying in Forbes magazine. All right, you make sure you can see that. Okay, so yeah, that's what's happening. Is BRICS is sort of screwing these guys up. But the Hunt brothers example, let's talk about that. Let me find that link to the Hunt brothers. Just give me 1 second, guys. Let me go over there. Where is that? Yeah. All right. Silver Thursday was an event that occurred in the United States commodity markets on March 27th of 1980, following the attempt by the brothers Nelson Bunker Hunt and William Herbert Hunt and Lamar Hunt, collectively known as the Hunt brothers. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'm trying to get it to show on the screen better. Man, this sucks. I know it's cut off, but hold on. I'm going to drop this link for you so you can share this with me. You can look at this. By the way, make sure to donate again to Lynn Davidson. I'm giving away a 1/10 ounce piece of gold to whoever can donate the most, whether that be in services or to his GoFundMe account. Yeah, it's not a problem. Here, let me see if I can make this bigger. There you go. Okay, that's better. All right, you guys like that? Give me a bunch of ones if you like that a little better. Now I can share it with you. So I'm going to try to blow this up a little bit. Okay. So one of the cool things about me not having my face on video is I have more time to mess around with this stuff without you seeing me scrambling, looking at the screen. So in 1979, the price for silver based on the London fix jumped from $6.08 per troy ounce on January 1st, 1979 to a record high of $49.44 per troy ounce. And that was on January 18th of 1980. That was an increase of 713% with silver futures reaching an intraday COMEX all-time high of 50.35 per ounce, and a reduction of the silver gold ratio down to 1:17. Now, do you guys know a little bit about what the silver to gold ratio is? So historically, it's been 1:15. So for every 1 ounce of gold, 15 ounces of silver could buy the same 1 ounce piece of gold. And I think right now it's 150, 1 and 50. So 50 ounces of silver to get 1 ounce of gold. So the COMEX screwed all that up, though, because it's artificial. Anyways, on that day, gold also peaked to $850 per troy ounce. In the last 9 months of 1979, the Hunt brothers were estimated to be holding over 100 million troy ounces of silver and several silver futures contracts, large ones. So the brothers were estimated to hold 1/3 of the entire world supply of silver that wasn't held by governments. And so the situation for other prospective purchasers of silver was so dire that on March 26, 1980, the jeweler Tiffany's took out an ad in the New York Times condemning the Hunt brothers, stating, "We think it's unconscionable for anyone to hoard several billion, yes, $1 billion worth of silver, and thus drive the prices up so high that others must pay artificially high prices for articles made of silver." Well, isn't that exactly what COMEX does? Come on. But what they do is they force the price down, right? So you think you're going to benefit from your silver gold, and price went down, right? But the problem is now they're dealing with BRICS and they're dealing with these central banks buying all this stuff up. So now the prices are going up based on the real value, and they don't like that. So they're artificially suppressing the price. So on January 7th, 1980, in response to the Hunt's accumulation, the exchange rules regarding leverage were changed. COMEX adopted the Silver Rule 7, which placed heavy restrictions on the purchase of the commodities on margin, because the Hunt brothers were speculators. They weren't buying it because they wanted to, like you and I, where we want to use it as a hedge against inflation to help our families. They were speculators, and they borrowed heavily to finance their purchases, kind of like MicroStrategy with Michael Saylor, borrowed a bunch of money to buy a bunch of Bitcoin. And the price began to fall again when COMEX did this. It dropped over 50% in 4 days. Well, we see that happening right now, right? What COMEX doing is they raise these margin calls, and then the price of gold and silver crashes. So that's exactly what they're doing right now. Not much different, right? So anyways, the Hunt brothers were unable to meet their obligations, and that caused panic in the markets. And that's what's been happening every time silver crashes. Weak hands are selling all their mining stocks that they'd bought for super cheap years ago, terrified they're going to lose their profits. And the next day it pops back up and they lost their position to some speculator or some hedge fund manager who probably works hand in hand with the Federal Reserve Bank and COMEX, and you lost everything. These people don't care about us guys. So anyways, when the silver price dropped below the minimum margin requirement, they were issued a margin call for $100 million. So you kind of understand what a margin call is a little bit better now, guys. A margin call is you might have bought in for 10 to 15% of that 10 million, right? Maybe you paid 100 million. You may have paid 10 million to buy in. And then COMEX says, oh, no, the prices are too volatile. You need to pay us 100 million to keep your position. And so what happened on Thursday is all these speculators, these hedge fund guys, sold everything in their profiles so they could make those margin calls. Otherwise, there would be a forced sale. And so what happens is when they raise those margin calls, they have the right to automatically sell your gold and silver position. So and what that does is it triggers a sell-off. And automatically all these people had to sell at a discount, and it cascaded, and silver ended up going down to like $67 at the low on Thursday. Can you believe that? They were able to do that. Nobody should be able to. They're complaining about the Hunt brothers, but COMEX is doing far more damage to the silver market, in my opinion. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. I think that what they're doing is criminal, in my opinion, or it should be treated as a crime if it's not criminal now. So the Hunts couldn't meet that margin call, and they were facing a $1.7 billion loss. In the ensuing panic in the financial markets in general, as well as commodities futures, it was over the top. So many government officials, government always steps in. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. Like the last thing you ever want to hear. The government feared that if the Hunt brothers couldn't meet their debts, a large Wall Street brokerage firm and the banks might collapse. Well, I don't see any problem with that. But that's just me being a patriot. These banksters are gangsters. So to save the situation, a consortium of banks, in other words, the Rothschilds, provided the $1.1 billion line of credit, which allowed these brothers to pay Bosch, which in turn survived the ordeal. And of course, now they owned it, right? Because the Hunt brothers had to take a loan. So the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission launched an investigation into the Hunt brothers, who had failed to disclose that they in fact held a 6.5 stake in Bosch. You see how that works? So the aftermath is the Hunts lost over $1 billion, but the family fortunes did survive. They pledged most of their assets into Placid Oil as collateral for the rescue loan package that they obtained. However, the value of their assets and holdings like oil, sugar, and real estate declined in the 80s, and their estimated net worth declined from $5 billion to less than $1 billion in 1988. And by 1982, the London silver fix had collapsed by 90% to $4.90 per troy ounce. In 1988, the brothers were found responsible for civil cases of conspiracy to corner the silver market And they were ordered to pay $134 million to a Peruvian mineral company. So the lesson that teaches you is, unless you're a Rothschild, right, you don't get to have a monopoly on the markets. I know a lot of you guys, the Hunt brothers, they made billions, so they're the enemy, because that's what you've been taught in the colleges and public schools. But I think it's the American way. Go out and make as much as you can, and you'll that's the way it is. And you guys, you could have made a ton of money too by investing in gold and silver at that time. Maybe not as much as the Hunt brothers, but when it went up, well, gosh, your gold and silver went up too. And COMEX didn't like that. No, they don't like that. So the Hunt brothers example is that they pushed silver to $50 an ounce, and the COMEX Silver 7 rule hiked the margins, leading to calls that the Hunts couldn't meet. And that led to the Silver Thursday crash to $10.80 an ounce and their bankruptcy. So, I mean, that's it. I mean, that explains everything. And they're still doing the same thing today. And U.S. markets, they're paper driven. They're paper driven. They're not driven by the actual physical value of the gold. To me, it's crazy. That's not the right way to do it. Yeah. Teach your kids, homeschool your kids. By the way, guys, again, we're doing this show to help Lynn Davidson, and I'm giving away a 1/10 ounce piece of gold bullion to the highest donor to Lynn, to help him out. He's a fellow YouTuber. He's a patriot. He's in the chat. We've got Grateful Dabs, who's his friend. He keeps throwing up the GoFundMe link. Hey, Grateful Dabs, can you tell me what we've raised so far for him? And by the way, if you wanna donate food, you want to give him some silver, some junk silver, anything like that, you get it out to him. I'm sure he'll give you his contact info, or Grateful Dabs will, and we'll get it to him. If you don't have a bank account, but you could ship him over some food, just help the guy out so he can survive. When you're disabled like that, and I'm telling you, I'm in bed right now with sciatica. Glory to God that I'm able to still work on my back, right? Glory to God that I'm able to do that. But, I was blessed with this. I was blessed with a 160 IQ, and luckily I can still lay here in bed, and I can share with you what I've learned. So if you go to this Reddit article, the silver price why is the silver price so different in Shanghai, 130 versus the COMEX 110? Well, according to this article, and I'm going to share this with you too. Hold on, because I want to teach you guys. Thanks, Great Gazoo. I appreciate that. Yeah. And if you guys want to help out my channel, and by the way, if anybody's donated like super chats or they've bought memberships, please tell me, because I haven't been monitoring the sidebar that much. So I want to make sure you get credit and we can talk about it. But more than super chats, I really want you guys to consider buying paid subscriptions, because that'll get other people out there who aren't part of our group, who may be into gold and silver stacking or constitutional currency, to get pinged, to get them a membership, and that'll help us improve the channel. Here, I'm gonna do a poll right now. I'm gonna say, is COMEX Crimex? All right, here we go. Check out that poll. All right, so I just did a poll, and then I'll do yeah, so we got that up there. Make sure to vote on the poll there, guys. So far, it's 100% yes. Let me see here. I'll start a goal too. Let's say I'll do membership gifting. See if that works. See if we can get that to work. All right. So I just sent out 5 gift memberships. Hopefully somebody will get those. I lost a lot of my members when the channel got taken down. So anybody who wants to become members, I'll do some private shows, but make sure to buy memberships for people, gift memberships, buy memberships for yourself. I'll do it. Well, there you go. What's the matter, you? Well, we're all learning, man. We're all learning. And that's another reason why, instead of just giving stuff to people, when we meet together as a group, we can all learn from each other. And that's why I'm not a big fan of putting people down or criticizing them because they have a different point of view. I want to understand how people think because that's how we can learn from each other. And sometimes you guys bring things to the table, like Brick Jonesy, man. Like some of the stuff that he says is just prophetic. A lot of the things, you know, we're not going to see eye to eye on, but that's the whole point. You know, you don't want to have a bunch of mindless, useful idiots like these public school kids who just go out and do whatever their commie public school teachers tell them to do. But yeah, so here's this article. This has been happening for a while, and the spread keeps getting wider between the China market and what's going on here in the U.S. And this guy says he remembered something similar happening in South Korea and Japan with Bitcoin. How is there not anyone doing some type of arbitrage and closing this gap? Or is the dollar yen dropping faster? What is it? And so all these people are talking about it in this article. And that they're saying you can't just arbitrage COMEX silver to Shanghai. You need to melt down the COMEX silver, refine it to 10 times higher purity standards, and reforge it to 15 kilogram bars. And the refineries are at capacity right now. So arbitrage isn't just shipping to Shanghai. The COMEX is also mostly paper manipulated by the large banks. But most of the premium in Shanghai is lack of supply caused by higher purity and different weight standards. You see that? So I just learned that just now, right? From my own article, I'm learning this stuff. All right. So anyways, the U.S. paper markets, paper-driven futures, ETFs like GLD and SLV, with leverage and shorts detaching prices from physical, okay? Overseas, Shanghai is a physical focus, and that's based on higher premiums, okay? Now, central banks in 2025 net gold buys were responsible for 863 tons of purchases. That's above average. The World Gold Council actually talks about that, and I'm gonna go ahead and share that link with you. So gold demand trends Q4 in the full year 2025. And look at that. I got to be a member to, there we go. Central banks demand presented here comprise aggregate reported changes as well as an estimate for unreported buying. This differs from our monthly central bank statistics, which consists solely of publicly reported changes. So that's a little trick that the central banks are doing, is they're not telling us how much gold and silver that they're buying, guys. So that's a problem, you know. And that's more proof that central banks are private and they're not public. Even their meetings are held in private. And of course, all the Rothschilds and these big hedge funders, they want the Fed to maintain its independence. Well, our 90 minutes till the Silver Bowl starts. That's right. Well, look, when that happens, I want you guys all to go to Salivate Metals tonight. Promise me, you guys, I got the link in my description, that you'll go to Salivate Metals and let them know Mike Ehline sent you, because you guys are going to learn so much tonight by watching Salivate that it's going to blow your mind. So I'll try to get through this really quick. But again, that's just proof that these private, secret banks run the Federal Reserve and that they're not a federal agency. They are a private, secret organization that was allowed to exist by a traitorous president. And Warburg was responsible mostly for that Federal Reserve, and he was trained by the Rothschild family. And the Federal Reserve Bank is basically a creation of the Rothschilds, and they don't like us. I mean, if you look at the Epstein emails, you can see that the Rothschilds and all of their tribe, they hate us. They call us cattle, and they don't like us. They're the ones responsible for all these safe and effective shots that they're giving out. And they're the same people who want to reduce the population. So if you're intelligent enough to extrapolate what I just said, I think you'll know where I'm headed with this. Now, BRICS is the issue. So BRICS is based on de-dollarization. They want to get off of the US fiat currency. They don't like the Rothschilds too much. And they want to have a 40% gold-backed alternative system. And they're engaged in heavy buying of gold and silver. China even restricted their silver markets to where you can't buy silver from China unless the government approves these heavy restrictions. So, and I think, let me see if I've got this. Yeah, and I shared this link with you a little earlier where they're talking about BRICS being a good step. Man, I hate all these articles. I don't know how to there we go. But you can see right there, BRICS currency is a good step forward. I'm going to drop this link for you as well so you can read this, because I don't want to sit there and read the whole thing. And again, somebody tell me if anybody's donated, because I have been watching, that I want to make sure whoever's bought a super chat or whoever's donated to my channel gets mentioned. Even if it's $1, it doesn't matter. If somebody has a question that they want to have answered and they've given me a super chat, I'll make sure to answer it for you, okay? And again, I'm not the biggest expert, but I know a lot. I know enough. And make sure to donate money, again, to this GoFundMe link that Grateful Dabs keeps, not money, fiat currency, so we can help Lynn Davidson. He's a fellow patriot. He's disabled. The guy doesn't even have any cold water. And on Tuesday night, it'll be the last day of this promotion. And then I'm going to meet with Grateful Dabs and Lynn, and we're going to go over all the donations. And whoever the biggest donor is, based on the market value of their donation, I'm going to donate a 1/10 ounce piece of gold to this person. And if the person wants me to mention their name, I'll have them come on and interview them and give them some credit, talk about them. But yeah, so BRICS is trying to resist this manipulation. And so how do you know when prices might drop from margin calls so you can buy minor stocks and metals? This is what's really important. I really want you to focus on this. So how do you know? How do you know when they're going to do that? Well, you got to follow along, but you got to check their margin pages every day, okay? And so that's this page that I shared with you earlier. And I'm going to drop this link for you. So for all you guys who are playing the stock market and you want to learn, this is what I do. I go to the CME group, and I just shared that link with you. And I look at their page, and I look if they've raised margins. And I think as you look at this page and you compare it to the stock market, you'll see every time they've raised margins, guess what happened? Silver and gold pretty much crashed. So that's why I escaped all my positions. I'm waiting for Monday, because Monday is a margin call that got called. And it's my view that Monday, no matter what happens in Shanghai or Australia tonight, what's going to happen is, I think tomorrow, a lot of people are going to be forced to sell their positions, and gold and silver are going to start to crash. And then I'm going to go back in and try to buy at the dip. They call it buying at the dip. So a lot of people get what's called FOMO. I'm going to give you some terms to understand. Fear of missing out. And they see the prices going up and they buy right away. Well, that's what the hedge funds like, because they know they can coordinate with their friends over at COMEX, especially if they know about margin calls. And they'll just be like, oh, this is great. I'll wait till the market crashes and I'll sell to all these idiots at high today. And then tomorrow when the market crashes, I'll go in and buy their positions back at a discount. And then I make what's called a profit. So you can also search for the CME margin increase in gold and silver news. And I'll just put that in there. I'm going to paste this for you into the sidebar, into the chat. Here you go, guys. Here you go. Hey, I just planted my medicine. Well, hopefully it was some good indica or some Thai stick there, Eric Jonthes. Yeah, that's good stuff too. The problem with me is I turn into the Goodyear blimp when I take those kind of meds. So what I try to do is a lot of exercise, take my D3 and my magnesium, stay on a high vegetable, high protein diet, even though Life Under doesn't like vegetables too much. He's pure carnivore. When I go pure carnivore, I have a problem going number 2. So you got to have some kind of fiber in there, right? Yeah. But so anyways, we'll get through this real quick. Volatility and positioning spikes. You need to track the metal's volatility, high trading volume, or extreme speculator, longs in CFTF. And that's the, we'll call it the commitment of traders reports. And I'm going to drop this in the sidebar for you too. I'm going to give you everything that I do to track these markets. So there you go. Make sure to check that out. And so that's the CFTF commitment of metal traders, or COT. And that's available weekly at cftc.gov. All right. And then you look for early sell-off signals, like once a hike hits or rumors spread, these initial drops will trigger these margin calls, and that'll create a feedback loop of more selling. So you want to look for that 5 to 10% intraday plunge on the margin news. Now, when the dip materializes, often it's a 10 to 30% short-term dip. And so you could go to the local coin store, or SD Bullion, which is where I buy my stuff from, because so far it's the cheap. And I'm not sponsored by anyone. I'm just telling you. I go to SD Bullion and I get my stuff cheaper there than anywhere. I know that Saul is into Salivate metals. I recommend you check the prices, because sometimes they've got cheaper stuff than SD Bullion. But when you see those margin call dips, man, buy coins and bars from your trusted dealer. US dips can offer great entry points while the physical demand holds floors. Now, minor stocks like Newmont, Barrick, or Juniors, Royal Gold, for example, which I think is Canadian, they're highly leveraged to metal prices. They make 2 to 3 times moves, or 2 to 3x. They call it 2 to 3x. And so margin-driven crashes will slam them even harder, creating undervalued opportunities if you've got strong, because they have strong assets and low costs. So research your fundamentals, buy on panic dips, and hold for the rebound as the central bank and industry demand supports metals higher. Look, as an attorney, I've seen paper assets wiped out. Physical metals and quality miners are more resilient long-term. Play smart. Set alerts for CME news and COT releases and price levels. On confirmed dips, allocate to physical and your select miners. I like Royal Gold, RGLD, Newmont, Barrick, Franco-Nevada. I think it's FNC. And that's what I do. Now, is with respect to the giveaway, honoring Lynn Davidson. That's what this is about. Lynn Davidson. Okay, that's why we're doing this show today. I'm going to go ahead and throw up his link, and I'm going to drop this so you guys can all add him as a friend. I really like Lynn, guys. And I would do this for anybody who's one of my subscribers. He's been a moderator on my show forever, and I really like the guy. He's been very supportive, just like What's the Matter You and Kinetic Customs. I've known you guys for, I think, almost 2 years now. And I'm concerned about him, because I don't want anybody who I know to be suffering like this. So he's a patriot, sharing eye-opening content. And so to win the 1/10 ounce gold bullion, which I think right now is like trading between 580 and 600, make sure to also subscribe, like, and comment. Tell me your thoughts on gold and silver as a 2026 hedge, and what inspires you about Lynn's patriotic messages. The winner's going to be picked in a couple of weeks, but we're going to start counting down on Tuesday once we figure out who the highest donor was. And, that's pretty much everything that I wanted to share with you about buying at the dip and how to do it. So it's super important. Yeah, Lynn is a great guy, and he's not feeling too good, and he does need your help. And that's what I'm trying to do. And so I wouldn't be asking my wife, and trying to find a way to help this guy if I didn't care about him. And so, yeah, that's what no man should be made to suffer. That's right, Life Under. And I do appreciate all you guys with your donations and buying memberships and supporting the channel, especially since I haven't gone live that much. I mean, I don't really deserve it, but now that I figured out a way to go live from bed, I think I'll be able to do more of these shows until I get better. Typically, the swelling goes down after about a month, but this time it's been a couple months and I'm still not going down. So I'm a disabled Marine, messed up my body pretty bad. I was in the infantry. And so as I get older, my body's just not healing like it did. But I'm service connected, and I love my country. And I joined the Corps because I wanted to be a Marine and fight for what was right, fight for my fellow brothers. And I'm doing the same thing now on YouTube, fighting for a brother who wasn't even a Marine, but he's a fellow patriot. So, I'm not just looking out for my Marine Corps brothers. I'm looking out for anybody who is a friend in need, because a friend in need is a friend indeed. Yeah, that's right. So let me real quick, I'm going to try to find Salivate on my, just give me 1 second, guys. I will try to, it's also in the description, okay? But I'm going to try to find, unless somebody's got his link for me and you could throw it in there, I'm going to share the link with you. I'm trying to find it. I'm doing a search on YouTube. Let me see here if I can find him. Yeah, here we go. All right. So Sal's going live. He usually goes live every night right when the market's open. So I'm going to real quick just drop the link in there for you. There's the link. And then I'll just show you what his channel looks like. And by the way, I'm trying to get Salivate to come on my show as a guest. So please check out his live tonight. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, Saturday night surprise. He may already be live. Well, I'm going to give you the link right now to his channel. And I want you to head over there. Just do me that favor, if you could. I'm going to put that right there for you. That's the live that's going on tonight. Let me see if I can find it here. See if I can find his live. Well, I can't find the damn thing, but anyways, hopefully you guys will go and check him out. Yeah, Semper Fidelis, man. Thanks that guy, Brooke. So guys, this private's got to make a head call. I'm going to call it a night, but please make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. All right. We never know that. And, yeah, that's Salivate's channel right there. We never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. So I appreciate you guys supporting the channel and supporting Lynn Davidson. You've got the links. If you want to like and subscribe to my channel and share this link with everyone you know so we can help out Lynn. And there's a 1/10 ounce piece of gold that I'm giving out to the highest donor to help this brother out. So with that being said, guys, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Semper Fi, do or die.